Owen Dalton had not slept past 5 in the morning in 3 years. Not because he was disciplined, not because he liked mornings, but because that was when his daughter, Hazel, woke up. And when Hazel woke up, the whole small house on Birchwood Lane woke up with her. She was 6 years old, and had her mother's stubborn chin, and her father's refusal to stay quiet when she had something to say. Most mornings Owen didn't mind. He would carry her to the kitchen, still warm and half asleep, and set her on the counter while he made oatmeal. She hummed something she had learned at school, swinging her legs against the cabinet doors. Those 15 minutes before the day officially started. Before the bus schedule, and the packed lunch, and the dog-eared bills on the kitchen table. Those 15 minutes belonged only to them. The rest of the day belonged to everything that was trying to take the house. Owen was 38 years old, and worked as a shop teacher at Millhaven Elementary. A position he genuinely loved, and which paid him genuinely not enough. After his wife Carol passed away from a sudden aneurysm 18 months ago, the math of their life had simply stopped working. Carol had been a dental hygienist with decent hours and better pay. Between the two of them they had been comfortable. Not rich, not even close, but the kind of comfortable where you didn't flinch when the dentist said Hazel needed a retainer. Now Owen flinched at everything. The heating bill. The transmission that needed replacing on his truck. The school fundraiser envelope Hazel had brought home with wide, hopeful eyes. He had put $40 in it, and spent the rest of the week eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch. Nobody in Millhaven knew how close he was to the edge. Owen was the kind of man who smiled, and meant it even when things were hard, and people read that smile as evidence that he was fine. He fixed other people's broken furniture on weekends for extra cash. He grew vegetables in the backyard to cut down the grocery bill. He read Hazel 2 books every night before bed. Not because any parenting expert had told him to, but because he remembered his own father doing it, and it was the one thing he knew for certain was right. He did not complain. He did not ask for help. He told himself he was managing. Then one Tuesday in late October the school district sent a letter. Budget cuts. The shop program was being reviewed for elimination. No official decision yet, but teachers whose programs were flagged should be prepared. The letter used the word restructuring 4 times and never once used the word sorry. Owen read it twice at his kitchen table. Then he folded it and put it underneath the fruit bowl where Hazel wouldn't see it. That same week, a woman arrived in Millhaven who had no reason to be there. Her name was Danielle Forsyth. She was 41, the chief operating officer of Forsyth Capital Partners. Her family's investment firm, the kind of company that appeared in financial magazines under headlines like Quiet Power and The Woman Reshaping Regional Markets. She had grown up in a suburb of Chicago and spent the last 15 years making decisions that affected thousands of people, usually without ever meeting a single one of them. She had come to Millhaven because her father had asked her to. James Forsyth was 73 and had grown up in this town before moving north for college, and never looking back. Every few years he returned for reasons nobody fully understood. He called it keeping a sense of ground. During his last visit he had sat at the counter of the hardware store for an hour listening to the owner describe how the school district was cutting programs. He had heard Owen's name mentioned twice, once as that teacher who fixes your fence for $40, once as the one raising his little girl alone since Carol passed. James Forsyth had said nothing at the time, but 3 weeks later he had called Danielle. "I want you to go to Millhaven," he said. "Why?" "There's a school there, a program worth saving, and a man you should meet." Danielle had laughed, not unkindly, but with the practiced exhaustion of someone who had heard her father's hunches before. "Dad, I run an investment firm. We don't do school programs." "I didn't say anything about investment. I said you should go. That's not a reason. It's the only one I have. Come see the town. See the school, see if something moves you." She had argued for 10 more minutes. Then she had booked a hotel in the nearest city with a decent rating and told her assistant to clear her Thursday and Friday. She arrived on a Thursday morning in a rented silver sedan. Nothing flashy, which she had chosen deliberately, though she wasn't sure why. Millhaven was the kind of small town that felt like it'd been drawn from memory. A diner with a hand-lettered sign, a hardware store with rocking chairs on the porch. A school with a painted mural of children, holding hands that looked like it had been done in the 90s, and touched up badly since. She found the elementary school without trouble. The front office let her observe, after she mentioned she was considering a community grant for vocational education, which was vague enough to be true. She expected to sit in a hallway. Instead, the assistant principal walked her directly to the shop room. Owen was in the middle of a lesson when she appeared in the doorway. He had 12 fifth graders around a long work table. each of them holding a small wooden birdhouse in various stages of completion. He was crouched beside a boy named Marcus. Not the same Marcus in any of his previous stories, just a 10-year-old with glasses who kept hitting the nail sideways. And Owen was guiding the boy's wrist at the angle, not taking over, just redirecting. Not about force, Owen was saying quietly. The nail knows where it wants to go. Your job is to help it get there. The boy tried again. The nail went straight. Danielle watched from the doorway for nearly 4 minutes before anyone noticed her. When Owen finally looked up and saw her, he didn't freeze or scramble. He simply stood, handed Marcus the hammer and walked over. He was broad-shouldered with sawdust on his sleeve, and the kind of unhurried movement that suggested he was comfortable in rooms where things got built. "Can I help you?" he said. The assistant principal introduced Danielle. Owen shook her hand with a firm, professional grip and showed no particular deference. He did not know who Forsyth Capital Partners was. He assumed she was a grant officer from the district office and treated her accordingly. Politely, straightforwardly. With the focused attention of someone who didn't have much time to waste. Danielle had been in rooms full of powerful people her entire adult life. She had sat across from governors and hedge fund managers and people who controlled more money than some countries. She was not easily impressed. But there was something about the way Owen looked at her. Directly. Without wanting anything. That was unfamiliar in a way she couldn't immediately name. After the class ended, he gave her a brief tour of the shop room. The tools organized by size on pegboards. The student projects lined up on a shelf with masking tape name tags. A half-finished rocking chair that he mentioned was his own project. Something he worked on during prep periods. "You're making a rocking chair," she said. "My daughter's been asking for one for the porch," he said. "I figured I should actually make it instead of just saying I would." He said it plainly. Without performance. Just a fact about his life. She asked about the program review. He told her the truth without emotion. The letter, the timeline, what it would mean for students in the district who didn't have access to vocational training anywhere else. He didn't ask her for anything. He didn't pitch her. He just described the situation the way someone describes weather. This is what's happening. This is what's likely to follow. Danielle left the school at 11:30 and sat in her rented sedan in the parking lot for 7 minutes. Then she called her father. "You could have just told me," she said. "Told you what? Whatever it was you wanted me to see." James was quiet for a moment. "I wanted you to see it yourself. That's different." She didn't answer. "Did something move you?" he asked. She looked at the mural on the school wall from where she was parked. The badly touched up children holding hands. "I don't know yet," she said. She drove back the next morning. This time without calling ahead. Owen was at the hardware store picking up sandpaper when he saw her again. She was standing at the end of the paint aisle looking genuinely lost, holding 2 sample cards and frowning at them. With the focused concentration of someone who did not know the difference between antique linen and warm ivory, and found this personally offensive. He almost kept walking. Instead he said, "Warm ivory has a yellow undertone, better for rooms with north-facing light." She turned. She recognized him a beat after he recognized her. "My cabin rental," she said. "The living room, north-facing? I have no idea." "Then go with the linen." She bought the linen. They walked out at the same time and stood in the parking lot with no particular reason to keep talking, and talked for 20 minutes anyway. She asked him how long he'd been in Millhaven. He said his whole life, except for 4 years of college at State. She asked what had brought him back. He said Carol had wanted to be close to her mother, and he had been happy to follow because there was enough good work to do here, and he had never needed a skyline to feel like he was somewhere real. Carol. She noticed he used the past tense but didn't ask. He didn't explain. He just kept talking, the way people do when they're not performing for anyone. Before she drove away he said, "Easy and without weight. If you're around Saturday, the hardware store does a community repair day. People bring broken things. We fix them. It's not exciting but it's decent." He said we. She assumed he meant the store's staff. She came on Saturday. She discovered that we meant Owen and 4 volunteers, a retired plumber, a woman who repaired small appliances, a teenage boy who mostly handed things to Owen and occasionally broke something worse. Danielle stood to the side for the first half hour, then was handed a toaster with a frayed cord and instructions from Owen on how to safely replace it. She was not handy. She knew this. She had grown up in a house where things were repaired by people you called, not people you were. But Owen had a way of teaching that didn't make you feel behind. He showed her once clearly and then stepped back and let her try. When she got it wrong he didn't reach over and fix it. He just said, "Almost. Look at the connection on the left." She fixed the toaster. It worked. A woman named Belinda picked it up and said, God bless you, and walked away with it tucked under her arm. Danielle stood there with a screwdriver in her hand, feeling something she could not immediately classify. She stayed until 3 in the afternoon. As she was leaving, she overheard Owen talking to the teenage volunteer, the boy whose name she had never caught. The boy was asking about what would happen to the shop class. Owen said he didn't know for sure. He said it quietly. Then he said, "Whatever happens, you'll know how to do the things you learned. Nobody can budget cut that out of your hands." The boy nodded slowly. He looked like he was trying to believe it. Danielle sat in her car again. She had a call with her investment team in 45 minutes about a commercial property acquisition in Nashville. She answered it. She said all the right things. She approved the numbers she was supposed to approve. But for the rest of the drive back to her rental, she thought about a 10-year-old hitting a nail sideways, and a man who told him the nail knew where it wanted to go. She extended her stay by 3 days. She told herself it was to look at the regional infrastructure report her father had forwarded. That was partly true, but she also went back to the repair day the following weekend, and she accepted when Owen mentioned that Hazel's class was doing a science fair preview on Wednesday, and parents needed extra adults to help with the display boards. And she wasn't a parent, but he had a spare volunteer badge and the school was always short. She helped hang display boards for 2 hours. Hazel came up to her at one point, holding a poster about the life cycle of monarch butterflies, and said, "Are you a scientist?" "No," Danielle said. "I work with money." Hazel considered this. "Is that boring?" Danielle looked at her for a moment. "Sometimes," she said honestly. Hazel nodded as though this confirmed something she had suspected. "My dad says most important things are boring at least half the time. He says that's how you know it's real work." Danielle didn't say anything for a second. Then she said, "Your dad sounds pretty smart." "He is," Hazel said simply, "but he also burned the grilled cheese last night, so." She walked back to her poster. Danielle stood there in the gymnasium of a small-town elementary school, holding a roll of masking tape, and something cracked open quietly behind her ribs. The next evening Owen was in the backyard after Hazel went to bed, working on the rocking chair under the porch light, when his phone rang. He almost didn't answer. He didn't recognize the number, but something made him pick up. It was Danielle. "I hope it's okay I got your number from the school," she said. "Your sub-coordinator gave it to me when I asked about the volunteer program." "That's okay," he said. He set down the sandpaper. "What's up?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I want to be honest with you because I think you'd prefer that." "Usually," he said, "I didn't come here as a grant officer. I mean, I am looking at grants. That part is real. But the reason I came to Millhaven in the first place was my father. He knew about your program. About you. He thought I should see it." Owen was quiet. "I should have said that from the beginning," she said. "I didn't know how to without it sounding strange." "It sounds a little strange now," he said. "I know." He picked up the sandpaper again, rubbing it slow against the armrest without quite thinking about it. "What did your father tell you about me?" "Not much. That you were raising your daughter alone. That the program was good and worth keeping. That I should go see it myself and let it speak." "He doesn't know me," Owen said. "I've never met your father, no. But he heard about you from people in town. He's like that. He listens to people he doesn't need to listen to and then he does something about it." Owen didn't say anything for a moment. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. "Because I'm leaving Saturday," she said. "And I didn't want to leave without being straight with you." He looked at the rocking chair, half finished in the porch light. "I appreciate that," he said. "For what it's worth, your father's instincts about the program are right. It matters. These kids don't have anywhere else to learn this." "I know," she said. "I've been watching." There was a pause that didn't feel uncomfortable. "The birdhouse kid," she said. "Marcus. He said hi to me in the hall on Wednesday. He told me he was going to make a step stool next." Owen smiled in the dark. "He is. He measured the plans himself." She laughed. "A real one, not polished." "I fixed a toaster," she said. "I realize that's not the same." "It's exactly the same," Owen said. "You made something work that wasn't working. That's the whole thing." She was quiet again. "Good night, Owen," she said. "Drive safe on Saturday," he said. She didn't leave on Saturday. She called her assistant Friday morning and pushed her Monday calls to Tuesday. She told herself she wanted to finish reading the regional infrastructure report. She had been telling herself that for 8 days. Saturday she went back to the repair day. This time she brought coffee. A tray from the diner, enough for everyone, including the teenage volunteer, whose name she had finally learned was Peter. Peter said thank you and spilled a little on his shoe and seemed unbothered by this. Owen looked at the tray and then at her. He didn't say anything for a moment. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I know," she said. He smiled. It was the kind of smile that didn't need any help from words. They worked side by side for most of the morning. She learned how to reset a drawer runner. He learned that she had a younger sister in Portland, who called her every Sunday, and that she hadn't taken a vacation. A real one, not a conference in a nice city. In 4 years. She mentioned it almost without thinking. The way you mention things to people you've decided to be honest with. He mentioned that the thing he missed most since Carol passed was having someone to tell small things to. Not big things. Small ones. Like when he noticed a hawk nesting in the oak at the edge of the property, or when Hazel said something that made him laugh when he was trying to be stern. I keep those to myself now, he said. Not with sadness exactly, just truth. She looked at him. You just told me, she said. He paused. Then he said, yeah, I did. Nothing happened after that. They kept working. Peter dropped a wrench. Someone brought in a broken floor lamp and Owen fixed it in 7 minutes. But something had shifted, quietly. The way shifts in weather happen, the pressure changing before the sky does. She left Millhaven on Tuesday. She had been there 11 days. On the drive to the airport she called her father. You could have told me he was remarkable, she said. No, James said, I could not have. You would have come with your mind already made up how? That remarkable people are remarkable in the ways you expect. He paused. Was he? She thought about a man telling a child that the nail knows where it wants to go. She thought about small things you keep to yourself until you don't anymore. No, she said. Not in the ways I expected. James didn't say anything. She could hear him smiling. Back in Chicago, she threw herself into the Nashville acquisition. She approved the final numbers, signed the paperwork, fielded calls from 3 different board members. She was efficient and focused and did everything she was supposed to do. And every few days Owen texted her something small. Not long messages. Just small ones. Hawk is back in the oak. Or, Hazel decided grilled cheese is now her specialty and I am not allowed to make it anymore. Or once, simply, fixed the rocking chair. Looks decent. She wrote back every time. Her assistant noticed after a while that she smiled at her phone differently than she used to. November became December. The school district announced its decision. The Budget Review Committee had voted to suspend 3 programs, and shop class at Millhaven Elementary was on the list. Owen heard about it on a Wednesday afternoon after the last bell. He sat in the empty shop room for a while. He looked at the pegboard of tools organized by size. He looked at the shelf of student projects with masking tape name tags. He thought about Marcus and his sideways nail and his step stool plans. He thought about the letter using restructuring 4 times. He did not call anyone. He drove home, made dinner, read Hazel 2 books. Danielle heard about it from her father, who had heard from someone in Millhaven, who had heard from the school secretary. She called Owen that night. He answered on the 2nd ring. I heard, she said. Yeah, he said. I'm sorry. It's okay, he said, and she knew he meant it, which somehow made it worse. She wanted to say, let me help, I know people, I can make calls. She had said versions of that sentence to hundreds of people over the years. She knew exactly how to say it. Instead she said, what are you going to do? He was quiet for a moment. I'm going to finish the year. Give the kids what I can while I still have a room to give it in. And then I'll figure out the next part. You're not going to fight it? I might. But not the way I would have wanted to fight it. The decision's made. He paused. What you fight for and how you fight for it, those aren't the same choice. She didn't answer right away. You're not scared? She asked. Sure I am, he said. Doesn't mean I need someone to come rescue me. She heard it, not as a rebuke, just as a fact about him. The same way he talked about everything. I know, she said softly. I appreciate you calling, he said. I mean that. They talked for another hour about nothing connected to any of it. About a book Hazel had become obsessed with, about a particularly bad pun Owen had made in class, and been rightfully mocked for by 12 fifth graders. About the way December in Chicago compared to December in a small town. And how she thought she might actually prefer less Geisline than she'd assumed. When she hung up she sat in her apartment, the nice one, overlooking the river, full of things selected by a decorator whose name she could no longer remember, and felt how large and well-appointed and hollow it was. She didn't write a check, but she did make a call. Not to Owen, not about Owen. She called a friend who ran an educational nonprofit, and they talked for 90 minutes about what rural vocational programs actually needed, that money alone couldn't fix. She called a former colleague, who had built a public-private model for keeping skilled trade education in underfunded districts. She asked questions she didn't already know the answers to, which was unusual for her and felt, unexpectedly, like relief. 3 weeks later, something began to move. A coalition. Part nonprofit, part private. Part a quiet phone call, from someone whose name carried weight in the state capitol. submitted a formal proposal to the district, a regional vocational partnership that would share instructors and resources across 4 rural schools, including Millhaven Elementary. No single school would bear the full cost. No program would need to be cut to keep another alive. Owen heard about the proposal from the assistant principal on a Thursday morning before school started. He read it carefully. He asked several questions. He recognized the structure of it. The language was smart. Built on models he recognized it from education policy reading he'd done on his own, hoping to understand what was happening to his program. Someone had done serious homework. He didn't know Danielle had been part of it. He didn't know for 3 more weeks. When the proposal passed its first vote, and the assistant principal mentioned, offhand, that a woman named Forsyth had been on one of the early calls, he stood very still when he heard that. He didn't call her that night. He waited until Saturday morning. When Hazel was at a friend's house and the backyard was quiet, she picked up immediately. "The proposal," he said. She didn't pretend not to know what he meant. "I should have told you," she said. "I wasn't sure how. Why didn't you just offer to write a check?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because that wasn't what it needed," she said. "And because—" She stopped. "Because what?" "Because you told me you needed the thing to still be yours at the I was listening." Owen sat down on the back step. The hawk wasn't in the oak today, but there were tracks at the edge of the yard from something small. He looked at them. "You didn't do it for me," he says slowly. "The proposal is for 4 schools. "Yes," she said. "You did it because it was the right structure, yes." He thought about this. "Danielle," he said. "Yeah, thank you." She let out a breath. "You're welcome." He looked at the rocking chair on the porch. "Finished now," said smooth, waiting for a warmer day when Hazel would actually want to sit in it. "My dad keeps asking if you're coming back to Millhaven," he said. She laughed. "Your dad?" "No," he said quiet. "Hazel." A pause. "She has strong opinions about whether the porch has enough chairs," he said. Danielle smiled in her apartment overlooking the river. "How many does she think it needs?" she asked. "She hasn't specified," he said. "But I think the number she has in mind is more than 1. In January, Danielle drove back to Millhaven on a Saturday morning. No conference agenda, no rental car selected for modesty. She took her own car because the drive was 4 hours and she had wanted to take it for a while without being able to say exactly why. She arrived at noon. Owen was in the shop room. It was still open, pending the partnership vote. Running a Saturday session for a few kids, whose parents had asked if they could come in on weekends. There was no official program for this. He had just said yes. She stood in the doorway of the shop room again. Same doorway as before. 11 weeks had passed. Marcus was there. He was sanding a step stool. It was almost done. Owen looked up and saw her. He didn't say anything for a moment. He just looked at her the way you look at something you've been waiting for without quite letting yourself say so. "You came back," he said. "My car knew the way," she said. He smiled. She smiled. 2 people, in a small room full of things being made, standing in the ordinary light of a winter afternoon. She stayed through the afternoon. She handed Marcus the fine grit sandpaper when he needed it. She watched 3 other kids learn things they would carry in their hands for the rest of their lives. When the session ended and the kids had gone, and the shop room was quiet, she sat on the edge of the work table. And Owen sat across from her on a stool. And they talked for a long time about nothing urgent. About Hazel's butterfly project and the hawk in the oak, and a pun so bad she made him repeat it twice. And outside the windows the light turned from afternoon to dusk, without either of them noticing when it happened. Later, walking to her car, she stopped on the front step of the school. Owen stood beside her. The mural on the wall caught the last of the light. The children painted there, holding hands, colors faded but still holding. "I think I'd like to stay for dinner," she said. It was not a small thing to say. They both knew it. Owen looked at her. "Hazel's making grilled cheese," he said. "She'd say it's her specialty." "I've heard," Danielle said. They walked back to the parking lot together. She left her car there. They walked to Birchwood Lane as the first stars appeared without hurry. Without needing the walk to mean more than it meant, which was already quite a lot. Hazel opened the door before they reached the porch. She looked at Danielle. She looked at her father. She looked back at Danielle with the assessing gaze of a 6-year-old who has thought carefully about the number of chairs a porch needs. "You can sit in the rocking chair," Hazel said. "I've been saving it." Danielle looked at Owen. He raised his eyebrows slightly. "Don't look at me. She's her own person." She looked back at Hazel. "I'd be honored," she said. The door opened wide. The warm smell of something toasting came out into the cold air. And Owen Dalton, who had not believed for a long time that life still had good surprises left in it, followed his daughter inside, and for the first time in a long time, did not feel like he was facing the rest of it alone. Some stories begin with grand gestures, proposals across candlelit tables, declarations in crowded rooms. This one began with a nail that didn't want to go straight, and a man who believed that patience and a steady hand could help almost anything find its way. And if that kind of story speaks to something in you, the kind that's quiet and real and built to last, then subscribe to Real Goodness, hit the notification bell, and stay for what comes next. There's always another story worth telling.